they lack technique, which is why I teach them the knee drive first. You'll stop tipping as you gain strength. Skill number 21, the handstand. The handstand will probably be the skill that takes you the longest to learn. It can take months to learn, but years to perfect. Proper form for a handstand includes having your shoulders pressed out over your ears, as well as having completely locked out arms. The handstand is like learning how to walk again, so let's make this as simple as possible. Remember, we learned how to tilt our pelvis forward from the hollow body hold. Practice that here to bring your hips in line with the rest of your body. We already talked about the 3 balance points, but let's go over them again. It's going to be the top of your fingertips, the inside of your knuckles where your calluses usually are, and it's going to be the palm. Just like with your feet, if you fall too far forward, push in with your fingertips. And if you fall too far back, push in with your palms until you have a happy, neutral position. If you want to learn the easiest way to train a handstand, do it on a wall. You'll spend more time in your hands and less time falling over. 10 to 15 minutes of practice and sets of 10 to 20 seconds is all you need to steadily master hand balancing. Handstands can be scary, so let's talk about the perfect way to bail out. You'll notice I'm keeping one hand on the ground that guides me as I'm falling over in my handstand. Keep the guiding hand on the ground until one of your feet touches the ground. Then you're safe to get up. Skill number 22, the handstand push-up. This skill combines the shoulder stand and the pike push-up together. It takes a tremendous amount of strength, body control, and body awareness to even perform. As for the form setup, when we get to the bottom of the rep, we still have our basic 3 balance points: our fingertips, our calluses, and our palms. You'll feel most of the weight on the outside of your hands. The best way to train a handstand push-up is by doing it against the wall. This way you can practice proper form and gain strength without the worry of falling over all the time. Don't feel rushed to complete every single one of these skills in exactly 1 year, but use this as a sure guide to check off any skills that you might want to learn. I'd recommend you complete the skills in the order that I provided, but you can go in however order benefits you the best. I seriously hope this video helps you guys. Make sure to go to strickfit.com and check out my apps and programs.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is one of the most physically gifted point guards of all time. Standing at 6'6" with an enormous 7-foot wingspan, a killer first step, and a silky jumper, SGA is virtually unguardable. In the 2024 NBA season, Shai joined Michael Jordan as the second player ever who averaged 30 points, 6 assists, and 2 steals while shooting better than 50% from the field. But just like MJ, Shai got cut from the varsity team in high school. This is the story of SGA, a forever underrated Canadian kid who transformed from a
Is there a perfect and complete routine for calisthenics? I mean, one that goes over the entire week of training. I'll walk you through my entire week of calisthenics training from Monday to Sunday. We'll talk about the skills, best practices, the best way to conquer bodyweight fitness, joint preparation, and avoiding injury. Starting off the week with push day, I recommend doing this 2 times a week. I do mine on Monday and Thursday. Before all of our push day workouts, we're going to warm up with scapular push-ups. Warming up the proper scapular muscles like so. Retracting with straight arms and then falling into a smooth protraction. Next, we're going to do an isometric movement called the pseudo-planche lean. You want to keep a protracted scapula during this movement. Set up with a wall or block in front of you. Progress forward by leaning forward to make the exercise more intense. Hindu push-ups offer a ton of benefits when it comes to upgrading your upper body strength. This smooth motion is commonly used in yoga practice, and it is not to be underestimated. This is probably one of my favorite exercises for enhancing my body flow. Incline push-ups translate to the ground well, and they give you an opportunity to focus on strict form. Please make sure you're retracting your scapula at the bottom and protracting at the top. You want to make sure you're leaning forward when doing your bar dips. It is important that we are emphasizing and keeping tension on our chest muscles. There is a right and wrong way to do dips. It is a straight movement going up and down. You do not want to be leaning forward and using momentum to compensate for strength. Coming up next is the pike push-up. If you have any hopes of unlocking the handstand push-up in the future, you want to start here. When doing pike push-ups, you want to emphasize strict form by keeping tucked elbows and pushing up and back through your shoulders. Your body will look like this. a great way to build overhead pressing strength. Diamond push-ups are everybody's favorite because of the increased tricep activity and emphasis of the chest muscles. Keeping the diamond shape might make your elbows flare out. Keep them tucked and push through your scapula. Introducing wall handstands. These will change our training completely. When our body adapts to this exercise, the dopamine hit from being upside down is uncanny. Please make sure you're pushing out with your shoulders over your ears, pointing your toes, and emphasizing your muscles. Side planks are a great stability exercise for emphasizing the obliques. When it comes to core strength and calisthenics, I think the main focus should be stability, and that's why we do hollow body holds as well. Replicating a handstand-like position, pointing your toes and squeezing everything, keeping your lower back pressed into the ground, treating this as if you were upside down. Ending our workout here with hollow body crunches, which are surprisingly difficult and can help you with core compression. Never ever sleep on pool day. You can do this 2 times a week. I do mine on Tuesday and Friday. Starting off our warm-up here with scapular pull-ups. This is a great exercise that reminds you of the body cues that you should be thinking about when you're doing your pulling exercises. You want to keep straight arms during this movement and draw your shoulders down and back like a reverse shrug. Moving on to rows for the hose. We're going to be doing bodyweight rows here. This is a great beginner exercise if you can't do pull-ups yet. Bodyweight face pulls work the majority of your upper back muscles. I really love the versatility of gymnastic rings paired with the variations of bodyweight rows. Now it's time to curl. Bodyweight curls is your answer to training your biceps at home. You can do this same movement with rings, a barbell, or even a door. When performing this movement path, you want to think about bringing your elbows to the temples of your head. Introducing front lever raises. If you've had any hopes of practicing your front lever training, you're going to start here. You want to keep straight arms with your knees basically glued to your chest, lifting yourself up without bending. It is also important that we control ourselves on the way down, making sure we're practicing a proper negative so that we can begin to develop that isometric and straight arm strength that we will need for later skills. This is a regression skill for the almighty front lever. Beginners can keep your knees glued to your chest, and if you build enough strength, move your knees away from you, flattening out your back. Skin the cats, although oddly named, remind me of when I was younger at a jungle gym. This movement unlocks a ton of shoulder mobility, and it's also a regression skill for the back lever. You want to remember to keep straight arms and also not use any momentum to force yourselves through the movement. You definitely want to listen to your body and don't go past a comfortable range of motion. The bread and butter of calisthenics, the pull-up. I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys, but you definitely want to emphasize strict form and make sure you're not skipping out on any range of motion. Please make sure you're squeezing your core, thighs, ankles, and glutes to make sure you're maintaining stillness through the duration of this movement. Pull-ups are never going away from your program. You definitely want to make sure you're doing the proper body cues and having a check down through every rep. Your body will thank you for not skipping out on any range of motion. Moving on to chin-ups, which are severely underrated. Chin-ups give you the ultimate stretch and contraction out of your lats. You are also working your core and improving your posture through this movement. Building your pulling strength is traditionally harder, so I want to make sure that you guys aren't giving up on yourselves too quickly. Finally, almighty leg day. I recommend doing this 1 to 2 times a week. I do mine on Wednesday and Saturday. We are going to warm up our body with 2 calisthenic movements, starting off with squats. During these squats, we're going to make sure we are emphasizing full range of motion, taking our time for the negative and positive portion of the rep. No matter your exercise level, squats can continue to be a challenging exercise depending on how you set your tempo. Moving on to our second bodyweight exercise, step-ups. There's a lot of variations for this exercise, but we're going to be doing the one that emphasizes hip flexion. If you have bad balance, ankle mobility, or knee health, we're going to be doing lunges in the reverse manner. This is going to take a lot of that pressure directly off the knee, transferring it right into your hips. As an added challenge, you can make sure that your knees do not touch the ground or gently tap the ground. stretcher squats, or Cossack squats, have been known for their
That's funny.
benefits in increasing active mobility.
That's funny.
Performing this movement correctly should see benefits in your ankles, hamstrings, hips, and the outside of your quads.
As he says to do it,
This
I'm
is
doing it.
also a great regression for unilateral exercises, especially if you have hopes of learning the pistol squat in the future.
Already got that.
This movement, paired with the almighty horse stance,
Mhm.
are two of my favorite exercises for steadily building hip mobility. Keep your legs at 90 degrees. Do not use the wall for support. Keep your chest up and your knees turned outwards for proper glute and hip activation. Looking for some unilateral execution here, we're going to be doing Bulgarian calf raises. One important thing to note here is that we are pausing at the bottom and the top of the rep for 1 to 2 seconds for extra muscle activation. And since we're already in that position, let's do Bulgarian split squats to follow up. You have got to love the stability and core strength gained from just taking off one of your legs
That's a
during the
bicep.
squatting
That's
position.
right.
Negative or eccentric pistol squats are when we safely utilize the negative portion of the rep, going down as slow as we can for 4 to 6 seconds, and then popping back up to the top again. This will help you build strength for the positive part of the movement. And since we're already on the ground, let's do some compact leg lifts. This is going to be a great exercise, especially if you have hopes of learning the L-sit. The benefits that come from mastering core compression are insurmountable. Moving on to one-leg planks. You'd be surprised that lifting a
That
single
whole
leg
leg
and extending adds an
toe
emphasis to
decided to crack.
glute and calf activation. This is surprisingly difficult and is beginner-friendly for anyone starting calisthenics. Ending off our workout with a hollow body hold, always practicing that anti-core extension when we can. Now that I've given you a calisthenics routine for the entire week, what skills should you focus on? The frog stand is your introduction into hand balancing. The trick to levitating like this is you want to nestle your knees into your elbows. Next up, you have the elbow lever, which is slightly more difficult. For this one, you want to nestle your elbows into your abdominals
Everything's
and
just
squeeze your
letting
core.
go.
Beginners will have more luck if they lean forward and straddle their legs. The L-sit is a full-body exercise focusing heavily on hip mobility and core compression. Straight arm strength and scapular mobility are essential. Moving on to the bent arm handstand. When it comes to anything concerning hand balancing, it's going to take patience and proper body cues. This one will be fun for you if you plan on learning handstand push-ups. Front lever is a skill about compression. You want to think about pulling the bar towards you. And finally, the last skill I want you to master first is the pistol squat. The pistol squat works every muscle in your legs, and it's pretty easy to get for beginners. If you have any questions about the skills I've demonstrated or the information I've put on this video, please do not hesitate to contact me on all
I feel it on my
platforms. Now
back.
go start your calisthenics journey.
Alright,
Strict form
Captain.
only.
That's what the nigga Captain calls.
Before we start any kind of workout, I always want to remind you guys you need to stretch your wrists. Stretching your wrists is integral for calisthenics. Now you may be asking, how do we stretch our wrists?
This
Well,
shit
I have
is
constructed the
so
perfect video for you
good.
guys. Check the description box below for this 5-minute follow-along wrist routine. Recognizing that today is a push day and we're going to be doing a lot of pushing exercises, I find it beneficial to start our warm-up by doing explosive push-ups. You want to do 2 sets of 8 to 12. Aim to push hard, fast, and controlled. Now that you've warmed up, let's work on some isometrics, starting off with the pseudo planche lean. Things to keep in mind. You want to keep your toes pointed, maintain full body tension by squeezing your thighs, cores, and ankles. Keep that forward lean and protracted scapula. We are going to be doing this exercise for 3 sets of 10 seconds, or holding it for as long as possible while keeping strict form. For this next exercise, there's going to be 4 types
The
of
hardest
holds
part
that you
about
can
these
choose from.
is
The
letting
first
your
one is
body
the frog
relax,
stand,
so you
which
can
can be
just
done
let
by
them
nestling your
tendon
knees into your
and
elbows or
just
slightly
relax,
above them.
so you can get the proper blood flow.
For the second hold, you
So
want
that's
to
why I
nestle
be
your
just
elbows
relaxing,
into
trying to
your
relax so I can
elbows,
think
like
about
so. Turn your
here,
hands
I gotta
downwards
relax
and
what
get into what
muscles.
we call an elbow lever.
This one
Because
is
you can feel
slightly
your
more
muscles
difficult than the
tighten,
frog stand because
and
of the
you're trying to
full
relax
body
it instead.
activation we are using.
And then it
As you
finally
can see, I
relaxes.
am
It finally
activating
starts
most of my
to
muscles
You can
and
feel
trying to
it.
maintain the straight posture.
But it
The
burns
third
sometimes.
exercise is a tuck planche, which is a progression of the pseudo planche lean. And lastly, the L-sit is a full body exercise relying heavily on scapular depression and hip mobility. Like I said, do one of those four with the correct hold times. Now let's get into sets and reps. Starting off with a push-up variation here called the pseudo planche push-up. We're going to be doing 3 sets of 5 reps. As you can see, I have my hands turned slightly outwards and I'm heavily utilizing the protraction of my scapula at the top of the rep. Not only that, but we're also maintaining that forward lean throughout the entire exercise. Please do not underestimate this push-up style. It's brutal. Coming up next, we're going to be doing something called squat to pike holds for 3 sets of 12 reps. We're going to simply get into a pike position and then sit back down into a squat. Doing this as an initiative to hopefully increase our wrist mobility in pike position holds. And since we're already in that position, let's go ahead and bang out some pike push-ups. We're going to be doing 3 sets of 8 reps, making sure our head falls above our hands at the bottom of the rep, and we push up and back through our scapula at the top of the rep. You also want to apply full body tension, squeezing your thighs and core, and make sure you're keeping tucked elbows, as this is what's going to translate to your future goal of accomplishing a handstand push-up. And you know we are not going to skip dips. We're going to be doing bodyweight dips for 3 sets of 8 reps. You don't have to do them outside on a block like I'm doing, but this is just the best place for you. You can also use 2 chairs as a balance point for your dips. Creativity is truly a blessing when it comes to calisthenics. You'll also notice as I'm doing these dips, I am keeping tension on my chest muscles. I am not going past a comfortable position, and I am leaning forward on every decline. Coming up next is the archer push-up, which is a great regression exercise, especially if you have hopes of learning the one-arm push-up. This is also a great exercise to combat any imbalances you might have in your arms or chest. If one of your arms are weaker than the other, this is probably the exercise for you. Alright, I know you're tired, but let's finish out with some core. One of my favorite exercises for mastering the hollow posture, we're going to be doing both holds for 3 sets of 30 seconds. As key points to remember for this exercise, you want to make sure your shoulders and legs are off the ground, keeping your lower back pressed into the ground. If this position is too difficult for you to hold, I want you to do the intermediate level, making a right angle with your thighs and ankles. This should also help you keep your lumbar spine pressed into the ground. If this is still too difficult, then bring your knees to your chest in the beginner level of the boat hold. I can't deny the importance of stability when it comes to core work, but I love these side oblique crunches. Let's not forget that it is your obliques that give your abs that look as if they are popping out, so I love to work on them when I can. And finally, our last exercise, we're going to be doing elevated pike holds. This is going to be handstand practice for us in the future, making sure we're pressing out, keeping our shoulders above our ears, and flexing our core the entire way. You can see how I'm leaning into my hands and applying full body tension to all of the working muscles. Thank you for staying till the end. If you're interested, I do offer online coaching. You can sign up at strict.co. Strict form only.
Stop trying to show me this.
This is my calisthenics leg day. Thank you for joining me. This is the first exercise we're going to be doing. It is called the single leg glute bridge, helping to build strength in our glutes, lower back, and core while improving our hip mobility and stabilizing our spine. We're going to follow up this movement with body weight squats, squatting as low and as safely as we can. Making sure to pause at the bottom of the rep for 1 to 2 seconds for that greater muscle activation. Being able to squat with your butt to the ground is no joke. You need a great deal of hip mobility and ankle mobility to perform this movement successfully. For our last warm-up exercise, we're going to do lunge jumps, sticking one leg back and driving it up to the sky as we jump off of the opposite leg. You will be surprised at the explosiveness you get from this movement and how difficult it can be no matter your fitness level. Moving on to isometrics. The horse stance is something that's going to train strength, stability, and flexibility all at the same time.
Your glutes will be firing off hard to prevent your hips from flexing even further and having you sit down into your ankles. If you do this regularly, you will relieve aches and pains that came from your previous poor posture.
Yes.
Love to pair that movement with the archer squat, which increases your
So you can go
flexibility
through
in
the
your
pain,
legs
right?
by stretching your inner thighs, groin, hamstrings, calves, and even the muscles on your ankles. Another great thing about the archer squat is that if you have any imbalances in your leg muscles, this is a great exercise to fix that. And if you're struggling with your pistol squat, this is a great regression exercise for that skill. Now it's time to lunge, but we're going to do it in the reverse manner. This way it's going to activate your core, glutes, and hamstrings, putting less stress in your joints and give you a bit more stability in that front leg. If you're someone that suffers from knee pain, difficulty
Go through that
balancing, or
today.
you have less mobility in general, this is probably the best exercise for you. Next, we're going to be looking for some unilateral
Tight calf
execution here
muscles.
with these split calf raises. Not only does doing calf raises with a single leg make the exercise harder, it greatly stabilizes the muscles that support the ankle. Another great thing about unilateral exercises is that they always greatly improve your mind to muscle connection. And since we're already in that position, let's go ahead and bang out some Bulgarian split squats. And yes, I'm sure you've heard from other programs, this one is brutal. But just like with this entire
But they
workout
work.
plan, the benefits outweigh the discomfort.
They work.
Fully extend that leg, point your toes, and make a pistol in what we call the pistol squat. The pistol squat is so difficult because it requires a great deal of strength,
Man, this is
flexibility,
opening up my
and balance.
heel.
It strengthens practically
Dear
every muscle in your leg. And if
God.
you're unable to do
This
one,
is opening up my
congrats.
heel. It
You're
doesn't
great
hurt,
to
but it's just like shocking.
Now that we're reaching the end of our workout program here, we're going to start some core work, starting with compact leg lifts. This is a great exercise if you want to learn the L-sit and you lack hip mobility and core compression. The further you lean back, the easier it is. And I'm sure you'll be surprised about the full body exercise known as the single leg plank. It works your obliques, glutes, lower back, shoulders, triceps, abs, even your outer
I'm
thighs.
about to slip on
Also,
this my
look out for
calf,
improving
but
your
this
posture.
feels good.
Ending this leg day workout with hollow body holds. You know how important the hollow posture is in calisthenics. We're going to make sure our legs and shoulders are off the ground while we keep our lower back pressed into the ground. Strict form
I
only.
feel all this just dropping. It's becoming functional.
This is one of the 25 best exercises that you should do to master calisthenics. And in this video, we will share every single one of them, including the best ways to achieve each of the 25 moves based on 10 years of training experience.
So after watching this video, you know what exercises you should do at your current level and when to move on to the next progression.
Alright, we'll start with the ultra beginner exercises, also known as the calisthenics basics. The first one is the bodyweight row. One of the basics that everyone starting calisthenics should master. This horizontal pulling exercise develops the back and the biceps. For those who can't do a chin and forward pull-up yet, this is a must-do exercise to build a good pulling foundation.
But what's the most important thing a beginner should know when starting this exercise?
Well, to get the most out of this exercise, you should always first engage your scapular muscles before initiating the pulling movement. So complete beginners can start with the standing row as an easier variation by performing the movement in a more upright position. And if the regular row is too easy, you can challenge yourself by doing elevated or trading pull-ups. The goal for each progression is 15 clean chest to bar reps.
Alright, the next one is the bodyweight squat. Of course, you should never skip your legs.
But a lot of calisthenics people don't train their legs, right?
Well, a lot of them don't, but your legs are half the size of your body, which can be neglected. So the bodyweight squat is the fundamental lower body exercise every beginner should master. Although most people can perform a bodyweight squat without practice, doing a lot of reps or throwing in some holds can still be challenging and leaves your muscles very sore. For beginners watching, if you struggle with the bodyweight squat, you can do the assisted squat where you hold on to a stable support or use resistance bands to help you with balance and stability. If you can do 15 bodyweight squats, you can challenge yourself by doing deep squats, which already prepares you for the pistol squat in the later stage of your calisthenics journey.
We can't miss out on the push-up. It is the classic bodyweight exercise that strengthens the chest, the shoulders, the triceps, and the core. Although this is a very important horizontal pushing exercise, I won't say it's the most important basic push exercise to master calisthenics.
Alright, but which one is that?
That's another one that I will dive into soon. So every beginner into calisthenics should master good form push-ups first, meaning a straight body and full range of motion, not these. Ultra beginners can start with knee push-ups, and once you reach 15 regular push-ups, you should not simply add weights on your back to make it harder, but increase the range of motion.
Oh my god. Oh, what is that? Why is that?
More advanced exercises in a later stage.
Now that we have the first exercises covered, let me highlight a special equipment giveaway somewhere in this video. So make sure to keep watching to make a chance of winning this epic prize. Alright, are you ready to get a six-pack? The leg raise is one of the most fundamental core exercises in calisthenics. Next to strengthening the core and targeting the lower abs, you will also train your grip strength, which is key in calisthenics. One key tip with this exercise is to control the movement on the way down, making sure you always have eyes on your toes. This prevents you from swaying all over the place like CrossFitters doing their leg raises.
But complete beginners usually cannot hang on the bar for too long, right?
True. That's why they can start with knee raises, using parallel bars or leg raises on the floor. With this exercise, always aim for 10 control reps before attempting the next progression, which is the toes to bar. This requires some core compression strength, which you will soon learn with the L-sit.
Now that we have covered the ultra beginner exercises from the first phase, let's move on to the second phase, which are beginner exercises. But also, stay tuned for the final stage, which showcases epic skills. Let's make the basics a little bit harder, introducing the parallel bar dip. A compound upper body exercise that strengthens and grows the triceps, chest, and the shoulders.
But most beginners that start can do bodyweight dips, right?
Yeah, I know it can be a struggle to learn them, but although you might already have the strength, it's often performed incorrectly. So therefore, we always recommend starting with band-assisted dips to learn the proper technique and to improve mind-muscle connection. So once you feel comfortable with bands and you can do about 10 good reps, you can move on to bodyweight dips. And from our experience, you can never train the basics enough. So once you can do about 15 parallel bar dips, start incorporating weighted dips. It will significantly increase your relative strength and makes your body weight feel like featherweight.
Next are the chin-ups. These are your gateway to your first phase of vertical pulling.
Wait, for our beginners watching, what is vertical pulling?
Well, it's when you pull yourself up in a straight line, like this. They gap the bridge between bodyweight rows and pull-ups.
Okay, so chin-ups are easier than pull-ups.
Yes, that's because the underhand grip position engages the biceps more and allows for a stronger contraction, making it easier to lift your body up. So when learning your first chin-up, you should use bands in order to learn the right technique and do negatives to get used to holding your own body weight. Once mastered your first chin-up, work up to 10 reps. Always make sure your chin clears the bar with each rep and fully extend your arms on the way down. Once you reach the 10 rep mark, you can start with weighted chin-ups.
Do you want to get the strongest core in the room? Then start doing the hollow body hold. This core exercise was a game changer for us. It emphasizes full body tension and teaches you the right core activations for almost all calisthenics skills, such as the handstand, the back lever, and the full lever, which we will dive in really soon.
But you know, this exercise is done wrong so many times. So what cue should beginners remember?
Well, you should always keep your lower back in contact with the floor. So when you notice that you arch your lower back, you should start with the tucked hollow body hold, slowly progress by extending one or two legs. So with each progression, work up to a 60-second hold. And do you want to bring your core strength to the next level? Then start using ankle weights. Let's make that core really strong.
The so-called skin the cat is a valuable exercise every beginner should master. It improves shoulder mobility, strength, and flexibility. It engages the core a lot and develops grip strength and coordination.
Okay, but why is this get named exercise so important?
Because this exercise is a must in calisthenics, as it is a foundational movement for advanced skills like front levers and back levers. We know that it can be quite uncomfortable to start with this move, so you can always start on a lower bar and do half skin the cats. Once you get more comfortable, progress to a higher bar and do full rotations. At first, you can bend your arm to get yourself up Finally, try to do this move with completely straight arms and zero swinging, aiming for full body control.
The pull-up can't be missed out on this list. It's the classic upper body exercise that targets the back, the biceps, and the shoulders, and ultimately is the foundation for all body movements in calisthenics.
A common question, should a beginner use bands?
Yes, for sure. So for learning the right technique, you should. As you already learned the chin-up at this stage, we encourage you to mainly work with your own body weight. So master the scapular pull-up, do negative pull-ups, and train the regular pull-up. Work up to 12 reps minimum to get yourself ready for the next stage in calisthenics.
But before moving on to the next stage, did you know that in our Calisthenics app, we have incorporated all these exercises with its individual progressions? In our app, you can also find over 50 different workout plans for all training levels and various goals. And the best part, you can start for free from an ultra beginner level. So click the link in the description to download the app in the Google Play or App Store right now.
Alright, now that we've covered the fundamentals in phase 1 and 2, let's make things a bit more exciting in the intermediate phase.
We'll start with the straight bar dip. This is a variation of the regular dip performed on a straight bar. It mainly works shoulders and triceps and is an important exercise to master.
And this exercise is also the second half of the muscle up, right?
Yes, exactly. It is the foundational move for this iconic exercise, which we will get into later. When learning this exercise, you can do straight bar jumps, using your legs as an assistance. Furthermore, you can do assisted straight bar dips with a resistance band. Your goal is to progress through various bands for 8 reps until you can perform them with your body weight only. When you master this exercise, you can even add weights, which is a go-to progression for people trying to unlock and improve the muscle.
Here we are, we finally come to the most fundamental push exercise in calisthenics, the pike push-up. This exercise is essential for moves such as the wall handstand push-up and ultimately the handstand push-up, which we will cover later in this video. This exercise is an overhead push movement.
Wait, what? Overhead?
Yeah, so you push overhead, just like with the shoulder press, but then with your own body weight. It's probably the most important exercise to have in your program to strengthen your shoulders. And since we've seen that this exercise can already be a challenge for beginners, you can start with half pike push-ups or negative pike push-ups, and from there, work your way up to the regular pike push-up. Progressions include the elevated pike push-up and the deep pike push-up. So you can increase the intensity by using a higher elevation or performing them deeper, or even both. So aim for 10 reps on each progression to move on to the next one,
which is the frog stand. This is an extremely important exercise to master before you try to learn any other balancing requiring exercise, such as the handstand, which isn't hard to learn. More about the handstand in a bit. The frog stand improves balance and wrist strength and even works the same muscle groups as the handstand itself. That's why we're telling all of our members to practice this exercise at an early stage.
But one thing that I noticed is that a lot of people get pain in the wrist when trying this exercise.
Yes, correct. That's why you can start with frog stand taps to get your wrist used to this move. Once you feel comfortable, you can try to balance unassisted. And if you can hold it for 45 seconds, you can progress to the advanced frog stand, where your knees are on your elbows and your hips are in a higher position.
Next up is the wall handstand push-up. This is probably the exercise that we've practiced the most out of all exercises after mastering the pike push-up, since we both have the ultimate goal, the freestanding handstand push-up. The wall handstand push-up is so important since it's the first progression that enables you to push your complete body weight, which is a hard requirement for the freestanding handstand push-up. So when first starting with this exercise, you should do back to wall handstand push-ups and do partial range of motion. And the next move on to belly to wall handstand push-ups using the same progressions.
Next is the L-sit. The L-sit is a crucial move to unlock during your calisthenics journey. No, not just because it looks cool, it also works on key areas that you will thank yourself later for. The first area is isometric core strength, which is necessary for all static calisthenics skills.
Wait, let's explain the static calisthenics skills a little bit better for all the beginners watching.
Yes, certainly. Static skills are also known as holds, because you try to hold a certain position. For example, the dragon flag, the human flag, or the front lever, which we will all discuss later in this video. The second work area with the L-sit is scapular depression strength, which will work other downward pushing movements ranging from dips to the mighty planche. To get started with the L-sit as a beginner, you can perform them with tuck knees or with alternating straight legs. For each progression, aim for a 20-second hold. Once you master the L-sit hold, you can even practice with a V-sit.
Number 15 is the pistol squat. This is an exercise that everyone should have on their goal list after mastering the regular squat. So besides it's an impressive move to unlock, it has many benefits because it's a unilateral way of leg training, which enables you to increase your training load by 2.
But wait, why is it called a pistol squat?
Well, because you look like a pistol when performing the move.
Hey.
So, furthermore, it improves balance, coordination, hip and ankle mobility, and overall leg flexibility. So to get started with this move as a beginner, we tell people to start with bar-assisted pistol squats, then band-assisted pistol squats, then elevated pistol squats, and once you can do 8 reps of each progression, you can ultimately move on to the full bodyweight pistol squat. And once mastered these, you can even challenge yourself by doing weighted or balanced pistol squats.
Next up is the handstand. You might be surprised that this skill is in the intermediate class, but it's actually pretty doable to learn for everyone, since it doesn't require much strength, only frequent practice. Me and my brother, we learned this skill in about 3 weeks by practicing every day for 20 minutes. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. My wrist still hurt, but it was all worth it.
Definitely. So when starting this exercise, we would recommend achieving a 30-second wall handstand first, and from there, start practicing freestanding only. First, you want to practice falling over comfortably, and once that's no big deal anymore, it's just a matter of consistency and time until you've mastered the handstand. Progressions for the handstand are high bar handstands or even one-arm handstands.
Next, the explosive pull-up is the first vertical pulling exercise that you want to practice after mastering the regular pull-up. And the goal of this exercise is to increase explosive strength, which is the #1 requirement to achieve the muscle up.
Wait, but this exercise is often confused with high pull-ups, right?
Yes, so with the explosive pull-up, the aim is to pull up as fast as you can, whereas with the high pull-up, the goal is to pull yourself up as high as you can. For example, chest to bar or even hips to bar. Anyway, the higher and faster you can pull up, the easier the muscle up will be. So to start with the explosive pull-ups, we recommend using a resistance band first to master the technique, since it's pretty different from the regular pull-up. So once you can do 5 reps with each band, you can practice it with bodyweight only, and your focus on this exercise is not more reps, but faster and eventually higher reps. So to progress further, you can practice this exercise even with weights.
Alright, now it's time to get serious. Let's dive into the exercises for the advanced phase. Next up is the back lever. For me and my brother, this was the first skill that we unlocked on a static bar.
Yeah, but also the most uncomfortable one. I really hated this exercise.
Yeah, true, but we see the same with all the people that we have trained. It's just the easiest one to unlock first. It's a skill that requires straight arm strength, a strong core, especially the lower back, and good shoulder mobility. So when first starting with this exercise, you should practice the tucked back lever up to a 20-second hold, together with tucked back lever raises to strengthen your shoulders. Next, you should do the same for the advanced tucked back lever. And when progressing to the single leg, straddle, and the full back lever, you should practice holds together with pulses and negatives. For each progression, you want to aim for a 10-second hold before moving on to the next one.
The pseudo push-up is a variation of the regular push-up, also known as the forward-lean push-up, since the goal with this exercise is to keep your hands at waist height instead of chest
This
height.
is
So
moving
this
my
exercise
back.
is one of the best
Oh,
exercises to
man.
increase waistline pushing strength, which is required for the 90-degree
Trying
handstand
to
push-ups
knee.
and even the planche, which we'll dive into in a few moments.
Yes, I have done this exercise 1,000 times before unlocking the 90-degree handstand push-up.
Getting started with this exercise is simple. You just start with the push-up and then lean forward for a fixed amount of distance at each progression. We always use a simple measuring stick for this. Your goal would be to do 6 reps at each progression until your hands are at your waistline. You can even make this exercise harder by doing assisted bench push-ups, having your feet off the floor.
Number 20, we have mentioned this exercise quite a lot already, the muscle up. It is probably the most iconic advanced calisthenics exercise. By now, you should know that mastering straight bar dips and explosive pull-ups are required to unlock this skill. But that's not all. It also requires quite a bit of technique. When starting to learn this move, you should practice the swing first to gain momentum. Excellent exercise for this are the tucked pulls. Once you get this down, you can start practicing the muscle up with a resistance band, aiming for 5 reps at each band. Besides assisted muscle ups, you should also do negative muscle ups and jumping muscle ups to gain specific muscle up strength using your own body weight. Once you've mastered the muscle up, you can progress to ring muscle ups, string muscle ups, or even weighted muscle ups.
We've come to the dragon flag, an exercise that you've probably seen some crazy athletes do. It requires a lot of core strength, but also pull strength. And once you've reached an advanced level of calisthenics, this exercise should probably never disappear from your workout plan, since it has incredible benefits for all static skills such as the human flag and the front
It's
lever.
that
Well,
damn
that kind of makes
pinky
sense, right?
toe.
Because they look similar, don't they?
Yeah,
Fucking
very
pinky
true.
toe.
So, as a beginner, you can start practicing this movement in an accessible way, starting with the half-leg dragon flags with half range of motion until you can do the full range of motion. The same goes for the one-leg dragon flag, and when mastering a progression for 6 reps, you can move on to the next one until you can do 6 full dragon flags. But it doesn't stop there. You can even attempt the single arm dragon flags. How impressive is that?
That's crazy, man. Alright guys, things are getting real now. Less than 1% of all people get to this final stage. Let's explore the pro exercises. The next exercise is one that we've also mentioned a lot. Once you've mastered the wall handstand push-up and the freestanding handstand, you are totally ready to tackle the freestanding handstand push-up, which is a skill that screams calisthenics mastery.
Okay, but here's a question that I get a lot. How long should one be able to do a handstand to start practicing the handstand push-up?
Yeah, so what I would recommend is when you can do a 30-second handstand, you can start practicing this move by doing small handstand push-up pulses, aiming for about 6 reps. At the same time, you want to get used to the full range of motion of the handstand push-up by doing negative handstand push-ups. So once you can do the negative more and more controlled, you can make the pulses move more into small repetitions until you've achieved a handstand push-up with elbows bent to 90 degrees. Further progressions are deep handstand push-ups and even a 90-degree handstand push-ups.
Did we already mention that the handstand and the handstand push-ups are easier to learn on parallels? That's how we both learned it at first. So to help you out mastering them, we're going to give away 1 pair to one of you guys. So follow the steps below to enter and we will announce the winner in the next video. So this is the winner of the last video. Congrats. The human flag is a jaw-dropping exercise that for many people looks truly impossible. Meanwhile, it's actually pretty doable to learn once you've built up the good basic strength and know the right steps to take. What makes this exercise unique is that it's both a pushing and a pulling movement, forcing all your upper body muscles to work.
Okay, but how on earth should one start with this move?
Well, the best way to get started with this skill on a foundational level is by doing human flag, side planks, building up your core strength and good shoulder mobility. Next up, you should do the vertical flag down hold and hanging flag presses to get your body used to the pushing and pulling movement. One key exercise to master before attempting the various progressions is the vertical flag up hold. Do this by climbing up the ladder and hold your body vertically up. From here, you can progress through the tuck, the one leg, the straddle, and ultimately the full human flag.
The front lever is a brutal display of pulling strength and is a must skill you need to have in your pocket when mastering calisthenics. However, looks don't justify the strength required for this skill. Although it may not seem as impressive as, for example, the human flag, it's a lot harder.
Yes, and guys, don't overtrain this one, otherwise you'll get yourself injured. So first make sure you're ready for it.
Yes, we both definitely got a lesson learned there. So for beginners watching, they can start out with the tuck front lever holds and then assisted holds to build straight arm pulling strength and for learning the right technique. Ultimately, the exercise that were most effective for us to really increase strength with front lever were the tuck and advanced tuck front lever raises, dragon flag bottom holds, and simply heavy weighted pull-ups. Because guys, if you become so damn strong in the basics, it's only a matter of technique and specific strength training to get the skill down.
Alright guys, are you ready for the final exercise?
Finally, it's time for the mighty planche. This exercise is for most people the dream goal in the world of calisthenics. Achieving the planche showcases extraordinary power and the complete mastery of one's own body weight, earning respect among most calisthenics athletes. Even we only have come as far as the straddle planche, as it requires years of specific dedication, especially with a relatively higher body weight.
So how much do you weigh?
I'm 82 kgs, which is about 180 pounds.
Well, that goes to show that calisthenics isn't only for small guys, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. Anyway, beginners dreaming of the planche should start with tucked holds, followed by the L-sit and tucked planches. Focus on pressing the floor away as you protract and depress your scapula, creating that rounded turtle upper back. To build up your straight arm pushing strength, you should do band assisted presses and planche leans. Progress by doing advanced tucked planches, single leg planches, straddle planches, and ultimately the full planche.
So these were the 25 exercises that you should do to master calisthenics. And don't forget to download our Calisthenics app to start your journey for free by following our workout plans available for all goals and levels. Click the first link in the description or search for Calisthenics Family in the app stores.
Start the journey, join the family.
And subscribe.
Peace out, guys.
Simon Atta has over 20 years of calisthenics experience. His mastery of the planche, handstand push-up, and other bodyweight skills is motivating. Learn how to train smarter and reach your strength goals with confidence. People are told to use good technique and avoid using bad technique. What does this actually mean?
So when it comes to technique, if you ask different people, you get a bit of a different answer. The way I like to define technique is using the motor pattern that will maximize performance given the specific rules of that lift. So I keep it very liberal. So if you think of something like a powerlifting squat, you would say, your hips need to descend level with or below your knees. I don't really care if your knees cave in a little bit. I don't care if your spine rounds. If you lift more weight than the other person and you fulfill the requirements of that lift, you win the competition. Your technique is sound and adequate. However, good technique will be different in different contexts. So in a training context, you might specify different requirements, different technical
On another
requirements
video,
to
bad
maximize
down.
training outcomes. So a great example is pull-ups.
Can I
If you're
pat that
looking at
down?
parameters, I get your chin
Can I
up
pat
bar,
that
straight
down?
up to the bottom. Kipping pull-ups are a great way to maximize the number of reps you can do. So if you're in a CrossFit competition and they don't have any specification that you can't kip away, you'll be able to do more reps. I could do double the reps if I kip as if I didn't. However, if I'm trying to put tension on my muscles, I don't want to kip.
Jesus
It's
Christ.
going to demand more force from my muscles not to kip using that stricter pattern, and that's going to elicit a greater training effect that I'm
You
trying
shedding.
to.
You get that
that's
coat,
the
that
purpose
new
of
coat you got
training
coming
session.
in. You're not black
So
no
good
more.
technique can mean different things to different contexts. I'm generally very liberal. Use the
Look at that
technique
coat.
that satisfies the rules of the
Look
lift.
at you, great.
However,
You
in
little
training,
wolf.
it might be use the motor pattern that will elicit the greatest stimulus.
Gosh.
And when you're
This is-
performing, it might
it's
just be
the season
use
two.
the technique or the motor pattern
Sorry.
that is going to give you the best aesthetic outcome. So, for
Come
example,
here.
in a handstand, good technique in the calisthenics community, circus community, gymnastics community is generally a straight line handstand. A banana back tends to be frowned upon. A banana back isn't wrong. It's not dangerous. It's just not the desired aesthetic. And if you look at handstand competitions, people talk about, straight lines are more efficient. But to me, this is just dogma. Because if you look at handstand competitions, the people with the longest handstands in the world reliably arch their backs. If it was more efficient to keep a straight body, you would move to that, you would gravitate toward that technique. So I'm a big fan of a straight body handstand. I'm a big fan of nice aesthetics and
You are
pretty good
changing.
looking exercises.
All that is just turning gray as hell.
But I don't think you can define technique so
You are an
so
imposter.
rigidly and say this is always good, this is always bad. I think it's very contextual.
That is the biggest piece when it comes to the discussion regarding technique, is defining the purpose first and then fitting the
Jesus.
answer and explanation afterwards to that. And further to that, you need to mold your specific technique to your structure. With squats, we know that if you wanted to target your quads, you take a narrow stance, toes facing relatively straight. But then if you're someone that doesn't have the hip anatomy or ankle mobility to be able to do that, your compromise might be a wider stance, toes flared out. It'll change the muscle recruitment, but the alternative is you not
I've
squatting.
never had a
So
fur
you just
dog.
need to be able to put it
Well,
into that
that I
category.
remember.
Yeah, and here's a bit of I think a bit of
At least we're outside.
practical advice that fits with this idea is a lot of people
Jeez.
use these kind of
You are a mess.
prerequisites for lifts. So, you know, they say you shouldn't squat until you have adequate ankle mobility to do it on the floor. You shouldn't handstand until you have 180 degrees of shoulder flexion.
You are so
Or
great.
90
What
degrees
the
of wrist
fuck?
extension.
What kind of dog are you?
That is all BS. I think one of the best ways to improve your ankle, let's say you have restricted ankle mobility and you can't squat to full depth,
You're like
just
brown.
elevate your heels and elevate them as little as possible that it challenges
You're
your
an
ankle mobility.
imposter.
That's probably the best way to improve it. It's specific to the outcome you're trying to improve it for, and you get to practice the skill while you do it. Take the handstand. Very few people can do a perfectly straight line handstand, especially when they start. And if you look at some of the best hand balancers in the world, when they started, you know, they had restricted shoulder mobility. They spent time on their hands. It improved through that, along with specific stretching. So you can still develop attributes. You can improve your motor control. You can improve your spatial awareness. You can improve your balance mechanisms in your
I'm sorry,
head while
scratching your
you
little
work on
boo-boo.
those.
Keep tugging on me.
those
We're gonna have
specific
a walk.
attributes that
At
you
least
lack
you gotta get the
for
one that
straight
go
line
across your
handstand.
chest.
That's the biggest takeaway that I've gotten from yourself and other experts in the field of
Excuse
saying
me, I'm learning.
physiotherapy
I'm sorry.
is
I'm sorry, Queen.
specificity isn't just
Work with
in
me.
relation to strength training, it's also to range of motion acquisition as
By the
well.
time I
You
figure
could
you out,
spend all
what else
day
gonna
doing
be
all these
going?
fancy drills for your ankle, hips, etc.
You
But
gonna be
nothing
fire
ticks
ant or
that
some
box of
shit.
specificity like the movement itself, and just modifying your posture so that it's possible for your body. Biggest bang for your buck changes people can do, and really focus and channel their effort instead of having a million different prehab, warm-up exercises and stuff. They can just focus on what they actually want to improve. That fuels that positive cycle of motivation because they're improving the exercise they want.
All right, go for a
and
walk.
also improving
God,
the
Jesus.
function of their body moving too.
Yeah, 100%. And
Jeez. You
you have
an
limited
embarrassing dog.
resources. You have limited time to train, to
You're
learn,
always
to practice,
embarrassing.
to recover.
Look at
So
you.
you can't
Got my hands all
be
ashy.
be amazing at everything.
Just because you want to
And I
shed and
think
change
this
colors.
applies to all fields of life, but exercise as well. You know, you're not going to be a powerlifter and a bodybuilder and a marathoner. You know, you might be a powerlifter and a bodybuilder. You're not going to be a calisthenics athlete and a triathlete and you can't do everything.
Mammy?
And it's okay to have attributes that you don't train.
Say it to
So
my
I think
face.
things
Say
like
it to my
cardio.
face.
Cardio is
Say
great
it to
for
my
heart
face.
health. It's great for longevity. It's great for
Say
your
it to my
health.
face.
And I like
Say
to
it to
even
my
go for
face.
walks or, you know, spend a bit of time
You
doing
ain't saying
some
shit. You ain't
cardio
saying
exercises
nothing.
occasionally.
Yeah, son. Yeah.
But it's not really something that I specifically train for. I do include a little bit to stay healthy. And people online, there tends to be this trend online recently, which is like, you neglect this thing, you must train it, right? Here's the thing you're neglecting, tib ant raises. And tib ant raises are all the hype right now, and people are making claims that they solve everything.
Now I got a sweep.
But really, you don't need to train
Look at this,
your
it's
tib
all over
ant
the
if
place.
you
Now I gotta
don't
sweep.
want to. You know, sure, it is a commonly neglected muscle, but
Now
it's
I got
also
a
not a
sweep for
very
you.
important muscle for many of the
My bad,
exercises
bro.
that we do. It may serve a bit of purpose in decelerating if you land with a heel strike. It helps your foot clear in gait, but you know, you possess the strength to do that. That's not resisted anyway. And if you don't land with a heel strike, you're not going to
Can I
be
do it
using
one
it
more
that
time?
much. I'd much rather focus on
Queen.
the big rocks
Queen.
first. You know, focus on your quads, focus on your glutes,
Can I
do
do it one
those
more time?
things. And then if you have some
Bad
problems, you
dog.
know, if you have
Bad
shin
dog.
splits, sure,
Bad
things
dog.
like tib ant
Bad
raises will help,
dog.
but it's not something everyone needs to do.
Sorry about that,
And
dog.
to that
Look.
point, you can say, oh, but it's an often
Bad
muscle.
dog.
I can name
Bad
another 10. You know,
dog.
do you train your big toe extensors?
Another episode of
Do you train
Bad
finger extension with the
Dog.
band? Do you train hip internal and hip external rotation against resistance? Probably not.
Yeah, I think there's more, as you mentioned there, a place for these isolated exercises for very small muscle groups in the scheme of things when it comes to that prehab injury
fur is all
related
over the
sphere.
place.
And the thing is, the majority of people that are training aren't in that category. They just want to get stronger, build muscle, and or increase flexibility for the most part. And working on these little things comes back to what we just said, which it takes you away from putting effort into the
Put me at
big
risk
legs that you
now.
can actually progress. Putting
No,
your
I'm getting
full
jabbed in the
energy
eye
into
while
it.
you're here.
We see that in the difference with elite
You so
performers.
disrespectful and
They're not
rude
doing
and
a
all
ton of
types of
these
embarrassing.
accessory type of things. They're just being really calculated with their goal and working on that.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I had to ask you, what would you pick for a vertical jump? Tip ant raise or
I
a
just did
back
you a
squat?
solid.
It's an obvious one because yeah, for many reasons it's the largest muscle group contributing to that movement pattern. You've got the greatest potential for progressive overload, and it's much more fun to express than tip out raises, but that's my bias for me.
What I like to do
Yeah,
is stretch,
and it's
smoke,
a pattern
cook,
used like
dog.
in a vertical jump.
You know,
You don't
listen to
need
podcasts, learn something new.
Your plan flexing.
Killing
It's
a bunch of birds with one stone.
Acceleration,
God, I gotta
but
sleep.
it decelerates so that you can bounce back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I said
Talking
earlier,
about you.
if you're running into a jump with a heel strike, your tip ant will play a bit of a role in deceleration. But if you're landing with a toe strike, it won't. If you're doing a standing vertical jump, it won't. And the thing people forget is that if you're running into a vertical jump with a heel
What am I
strike,
supposed to do with
your
that?
quads and your glutes are going to be doing a lot more shock absorption and a lot more decelerating. Your
See, now
quads
she a new dog.
particularly,
Now she got scratched.
rather than your tib ant. It's a bigger muscle group. It can produce more force. It can absorb more
Got
shock.
some of that. Man, she
Agreed.
changed. She used to be
With
black. Now
calisthenics,
she
what makes it
a wolf.
unique as a
A
strength
freaking-
training discipline compared
call
to
those
say
things?
lifting weights?
So
German Shepherd.
when it comes to strength, if you just define strength as the ability to produce force, whether you lift weights or you use your body weight as
You gotta show
resistance,
off
it's the
to me.
same thing. You're producing force. Your muscles don't really know. They
I know
don't
what you
really
can do.
care
I've seen you
what they're
run.
needing to resist and overcome.
See
They
you
just need
throw
to
your
produce
hip
force
out,
to overcome it.
acting wild, acting
However,
bad.
these specific motor patterns that you're trying to train will be different. So, if you want to get good at dips, going back to that principle of specificity,
That
train
ear
dips,
just looks
train
extra
bench press,
long.
train bench press. There'll be some carryover, but train the thing that you want to get good at. One thing that is very
Come
different
here, I'll
with
take care of
calisthenics
it.
is that your body weight is relatively stable and you can't adjust it. So when it comes to weights, it's very easy to overload and to manipulate the intensity. You can just add a bit of weight to the bar, take a little bit of weight off the bar. When it comes to calisthenics, you cannot take your legs off. You have to find other methods
I
to
ain't bothering you.
manipulate the intensity or change how much force your muscles must produce. And
You
the way we
don't
tend to
bother
do that
me,
in
I don't bother
calisthenics is
you.
by manipulating leverage. So if
And
you
you
just think
bother
about a
me.
seesaw, if you put a kilogram weight halfway down one end, applied a force to it, it will lift up. If you move that twice as far away, you would need to produce double the force in the same place to make that lift up. So that's the way calisthenics works. You're changing the lever arms, you're putting your muscles in a mechanically disadvantageous position relative to the weight or relative to the resistance. Whereas with weights, you tend to keep lever arms the same, keep the motor pattern the same, and just change the force or the weight.
How does body weight influence that leverage system?
So if you weigh more, so I think if we come back to the seesaw, it's probably the easiest way to illustrate this point. Think about a seesaw. You put a kilogram halfway down one end. Let's say you've got a fulcrum and a kilogram is a meter from the fulcrum. To balance that, you need to produce a kilogram of downward force a meter away on the other side. Now, if you double the weight, you need to produce double the force. But if you just moved that weight twice as far from the center, you would also need to produce double the force, despite it only weighing a kilogram as well. So when it comes to body weight, the way your body weight influences calisthenics skills is that you can just think of it, you weighing more. So it doesn't really change the lever arm, but if I'm 90 kilos versus 70 kilos, you can think about that 90 kilos being 1 meter away versus 70 kilos being 1 meter away. It changes the torque at the joints and it changes the force requirements from the muscles. Yeah, so weighing more, it depends where your weight is distributed. Weighing more in calisthenics is generally harder.
And that's why I wanted to ask about the impact of more weight being distributed towards the legs. Is this potentially a factor in why some calisthenics athletes do or don't train legs?
Yeah, so if you think of a skill, think of any leverage skill, like the planche, the lever, the human flag, take your pick. If you're very top heavy and all your weight is, pecs and lats, and you have no legs, your weight is going to be distributed very close to the shoulder joint.
Facts.
So if you think of a planche, these are my arms, this is my body. This won't balance because my center of mass, my weight is somewhere around my hips. Now to balance it, I need to lean forward to get my center of weight over the hands.
Pelvis.
If my weight is distributed, here at my hips, I need to lean this much. If my weight is distributed up here because I'm all lats and no legs, I don't need to lean as far to balance that weight. If my weight was all at my legs, I would need to lean a lot further, which changes the force requirements because it changes that lever arm.
Okay, that makes sense.
If you want to demonstrate this point practically without getting into the physics of torque, you can just put ankle weights on. Just put ankle weights. So just do a planche or a flag, whichever skill you can do. And if you can't do a planche with a band. And then do or hold an L sit and put some ankle weights on your thighs.
Yeah,
And
that's
you'll
all
see,
you. You
okay,
did
it's
that.
pretty hard. Now move
That's
those
all
ankle
your
weights to
fur.
your knees, and then move those ankle weights to your toes, and you'll see just how much harder it becomes. That's the equivalent of adding mass in any of those areas.
That's so interesting because we can all relate to gaining a kilo or two of just body weight and how it feels to just walk around, go upstairs. You can really notice that increased weight. If you put that towards the distal part of your body, being the legs, with what we understand with body weight leverages, it really does make sense why it can make a significant change on performance and progress too.
Yeah. And if you think about, you see this in weights as well. If you take weighted exercises that have long lever arms, small changes make a huge difference. So like if you think of something with a relatively short lever arm, think of your shoulder press, where the lever arm is from your shoulder to your elbow with the weight directly over it. I can add pretty significant weight and not really feel a difference. I can throw 1 or 2 kilos on and not really feel a big change in the intensity. If I do a lateral raise instead, where the lever arm is double, and I add 1 or 2 kilos to my lateral raise, it just quickly becomes impossible. I can take a weight I could do, add 2 kilos to it, and all of a sudden I could barely do any reps. And that just shows you the significance of long lever arms.
Now that we understand that, when it comes to measuring your progress, what's the best way to do this to stay motivated with calisthenics, given that we're changing leverages for those type of exercises?
Yeah, I think just find something that you can replicate. Find a position that you can replicate or an exercise that you can replicate, and just see if your number of reps or your hold time increases. So, for example, a tuck planche is very easy to replicate. You just tuck your legs maximally, set some basic standards like straight arms, hips and shoulders level, and test your max hold time. It might be 10 seconds. If you increase that to 20 seconds, you can be pretty confident you've gotten stronger. Your capacity of that exercise is doubled. I would just do it the same way that you do with weights. Pick an exercise, let's say the bench press.
Get this
Set
shit
some
over
basic
with.
parameters, chest touches your bar, arms straight at the top. How many reps can you do? If you've increased the reps, you've increased the weight, fantastic, you've gotten stronger. Same thing with calisthenics. If I can hold a tuck lever, I can do tuck lever raises. How many reps can I do? How long can I hold it? When that increases, I can be
I'm
fairly
gonna talk to you
confident I've gotten
guys
stronger.
a little
Or
later.
you can then test a